Hello, everyone. I want to start by apologizing for being gone for so long. I really don't want to go into details as to the reasons. Let's just say I had to do some advocating for my own sanity and leave it at that. At any rate, now that we're back, let's see what we're dealing with today. Yeah, you saw that correctly. Today we're going to be moving up a little on the dodo food chain and dealing with Prager.
You cannot be serious right now.
I personally am a fan of Prager. You gotta be kidding me. Feel free to leave your own snarky names for them in the comments below.
Are fathers necessary?
From a purely biological standpoint, sure. The sperm has to come from somewhere. However, if you mean sociologically, hint, I already know he does. Well, I grew up without my father and turned out just fine. So, no. Wow, this is the shortest video I've ever... Oh, wait, he keeps going.
For all of recorded history, the need to explain why fathers are necessary would have been regarded as, well, unnecessary.
Oh, break out those BS bingo cards, folks. We've already got argument from tradition. What'd you say? You think I'm poisoning the well? Don't be silly. I would never do something like that. Knowing anything about PragerU does it for me.
It would have been like explaining why water or air is necessary. But we live at a time in which the obvious is routinely denied.
Out of water, air, and fathers, humans will literally cease to do the living thing without two of those. So trying to lump all three together is a little disingenuous at best. As for your claim that obvious things are being denied, allow me to remind my audience that among the things that your organization claims are obvious include young Earth creationism and the 100% factual accuracy of, as Seth Andrews so amusingly put it, the Goat Herder's Guide to the Universe.
There have been articles in the most prestigious journals denying the importance of fathers. The Atlantic magazine, for example, published an article titled, "Are Fathers Necessary? A Paternal Contribution May Not Be as Essential as We Think." The New York Times published a discussion among 5 intellectuals titled, "What Are Fathers For?" One of them, Hannah Rosen, an editor at New York Magazine, opened her response by stating, "I'm not sure whether a child needs a father." I could give dozens of such examples. I'll just give one more. HuffPost published a piece titled, "Fathers Are Not Needed."
I don't know about you guys, but when I hear the words prestigious journals related to a subject like this, I think of scientific journals specifically connected to the fields of anthropology or sociology, not newspapers or magazines. I guess Denny's got a different standard, shall we say.
Fortunately, this dismissal of the importance of fathers is not universal. In a 2008 Father's Day speech a few months before his election as President of the United States, Barack Obama said, "Fathers are critical to the foundation of each family. That they are teachers and coaches, they are mentors and role models, they are examples of success, and they are the men who constantly push us toward it." What makes his comments particularly noteworthy is that Barack Obama grew up without a father.
Well, of course he kissed up to fathers on Father's Day. I'm sure he talked about how great mothers are on Mother's Day, too. Any politician would. Well, any politician with a half ounce of sense, anyway. Also, Dennis, I wonder if you realize that the last thing you just said kind of shoots your whole argument in the foot.
Both boys and girls need fathers. We'll begin with boys. A boy has no built-in understanding about how to be a man, meaning a good and responsible man.
Remember when Dennis mentioned obvious things? I'd be willing to bet money I ain't got that most of you guys will agree with me when I say that not being born with an innate sense of what's expected of you from whatever society you happen to be born into falls into that category better than a lot of the nonsense he'd try to put into it.
Male nature is wild, most obviously regarding sex and violence. If a boy does not have a father who models how a man controls himself, he will most likely not know how to control himself, let alone want to.
This has nothing to do with nature, Dennis. All the things you just talked about are learned behaviors. Boys are just as likely to be timid as to be wild depending on their upbringing. Same with girls. And because they're all learned behaviors, they don't have to be modeled by anyone and can instead be taught by anyone, including a woman.
That's why most males in prison for violent crimes grew up without a father. After days of riots in the UK in 2011, quite like the 2020 riots in America,
Well, they say even a broken clock is right twice a day. The UK riots of 2011, as you can see here, differed somewhat from the United States incidents in 2020 in that they didn't last nearly as long. However, they did have one distinct factor in common. They both started as the result of a person of color being killed by an on-duty police officer. I'm not going to go into too many details on either incident here, as they're not really relevant to this video. However, I do encourage all of you to look up both the incidents if you're interested.
Christina Adone wrote a column for the London Telegraph, whose title says it all. London riots, absent fathers have a lot to answer for. In the column, she wrote, "The majority of rioters are gang members. Like the overwhelming majority of youth offenders behind bars, these gang members have one thing in common: no father at home."
Now hold on a moment, Dennis. Far be it from me to disrupt your narrative with silly things like facts, not like I made a whole YouTube channel to do something like that or anything. And granted, I don't know how things are in the UK, but here in this side of the Atlantic, back in 2002, the Department of Justice did a survey that revealed only 39% of inmates, violent and otherwise, came from single-parent, mother-only households. If you'd like something more recent, in the mid-2010s, PolitiFact checked out this claim by, you guessed it, a Republican politician, and found it to be mostly false, revealing that actually only about 60% of inmates grew up in what would be considered a non-standard nuclear family. Bear in mind also, this includes not only single mothers, but also single fathers, grandparents, aunts and uncles, or any number of other arrangements. One clinical psychologist the PolitiFact spoke to went so far as to say, quote, "We could point out that 99% of felony offenders drank milk as a child too, but it's easy to see the fallacy here because we have no preconceptions about milk the way we do about father absence." I'd also like to point out that there was no study that I could find that takes the total number of men who grew up in a single-parent, mother-only household and compares the number of those who did turn into criminals to the number of those who didn't. But I suppose this is about the level of fact-checking that we've come to expect from a PragerU video.
There's no question that many mothers have done an excellent job raising a boy without their son's father. But common sense alone suggests that a mother simply cannot model what a boy should be any more than a man can model to a girl what a woman should be.
And as we already mentioned, none of these things have to be modeled. They can be taught by anyone of any gender.
And then there is the issue of controlling boys and their wild natures. Again, there are mothers who are able to do this. But if a boy is at all difficult, as so many are, as he gets older, most mothers will find it more and more difficult to control their son, because unruly boys listen to their fathers much more than they listen to their mothers, which is precisely why most violent criminals grew up in fatherless homes. They obviously did not listen to their mothers.
We already covered this too, Dennis. Repeating the same falsehoods doesn't make them facts.
As regards daughters, the father is the man girls learn to relate to. Without a father to relate to and bond with, there are at least two destructive consequences. First, she will not know how to choose a man wisely. She will not know how a man should treat her, and she may well end up with a man who mistreats her.
I'm getting a little tired of repeating myself, Dennis. Once again, these are things that can be taught by anyone. Although it does raise the question on whether or not Dennis thinks a girl would be better off with an abusive father than with no father at all.
Second, to fulfill her desire to bond with a man, as primally yearning in most women as bonding with a woman is in most men, she will go from man to man. Girls without fathers in their lives are far more likely to be sexually promiscuous and to begin sexual activity at an earlier age, which in turn are reasons many young women are depressed. Few women find sleeping with man after man fulfilling. Most find it ultimately depressing.
As pretty much anyone over the age of 25 can tell you, sometimes in order to find the quote-unquote right one, you have to go through a lot of wrong ones, regardless of how many parents you grew up with. It's also worth noting that though many women are made to feel bad for being sexually active, largely by semi-Puritan jerks like you, that does not necessarily mean that they would feel that way without that negative outside influence.
Finally, fathers give both sons and daughters the thing children need most: a sense of safety and security. As much as children need love, they need a sense of security even more. And in general, moms give love and dads give security.
And there we have it. The primary basis for most of Dennis's arguments: stereotypical gender roles. His brain can't get past the 1950s, so he doesn't want ours to either. Well, we finally made it through this one. This month's art piece is by the ridiculously talented Savage. His Twitter handle is in the description below, so go give him some love and throw some money at him if you got it. As for me, I'm going to try to get back onto my old once-a-month video schedule. While I can't guarantee that'll happen, I at least promise that you won't have to wait over a year for the next video like you did this one. So until next time, stay safe, stay well, and as always, stay sane, everybody. Smoochies! If you like what I do but want to see somebody do it way better, be sure to check out Sir Sick, the Social Inequality Crusader. Links in the description below. And tell him Susie sent you.